there's actual news about this investigation that's very interesting, Stu, and it comes to us from Miranda Devine in a piece she posted on December 7th, 2 days ago, then updated yesterday. Okay, and it's about this alleged shooter, first for him from his grandmother, who says, quote, he's very naive. He's almost autistic-like. He doesn't understand a lot of stuff. She says he's slow. He may be 30, but he's got the mind of a 16-year-old. Now, that could be true, or it could be a grandma trying to say he's not smart enough to be a pipe bomber. Don't know. Then Miranda gets into the following. How did Christopher Wray's FBI allegedly miss the phone used by the suspect in the vicinity of the DNC and RNC headquarters on the evening of January 5th when the pipe bombs were planted? Because Kash Patel told me when he came on the show on Friday that he believes it was intentional, that it wasn't just a mistake, but not intentional like I don't want to catch a would-be killer, intentional of like, I want to focus on Russiagate. I want to focus on other things that are bad for Trump and not this anymore. But she asked this question in part because we saw in the FBI affidavit in support of this guy's arrest that Cole's cell phone, quote, engaged in approximately 7 data session transactions with his cell phone provider's towers between 7:39 and 8:24 p.m. in the area of the RNC and DNC on January 5th, 2021, locating him at the right place at the right time. That info was obtained by the FBI within weeks of the discovery of the pipe bombs. And she accurately points out it took the FBI nearly 5 years, though, to track down and arrest Cole Jr. Then she brings up the case of Steve D'Antuono. Steve D'Antuono, D''Antuono, was head of the FBI's Washington field office until his retirement in December 22, who was in charge of the crucial first year of the pipe bomb case, as well as the Capitol riot investigation. He was assigned to Washington 1 month before the 2020 election from his previous role in Detroit, where he ran the disastrous Gretchen Whitmer Fednapping case that resulted in multiple mistrials and acquittals amid claims of FBI entrapment. This is Miranda writing correctly. D'Antuono, who has since found a job at KPMG, also led the controversial FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. This guy's like right in the middle of some of the most controversial FBI actions in history. In any case, in June 2023, he testified before Congress, claiming that the FBI had received corrupted data in the pipe bomb case from one of the 3 major cell phone carriers, and that may have been the reason the FBI could not find the pipe bomber. He said, and I quote, "We did a complete geofence, but there's some data that was corrupted by one of the providers, not purposely by them. It was just an unusual circumstance that we have corrupt data from one of the providers. Can't remember which one right now, but for that day, which is awful because we don't have that information to search now. So could it have been that provider? Yeah. With our luck, with this investigation, it probably was. Yet all 3 of the cell phone carriers contacted by the congressional committee now investigating the pipe bomb case confirmed to Congress that they, quote, did not provide corrupted data to the FBI and that the FBI never informed them of any issues with accessing the cellular data. So Mr. D'Antuono appears to have been either wrong or lying in trying to explain to them why the cell phone tower data was a dead end for them. Because they're saying, if you have a bunch of info from 2, but not from the 3rd, how do you know this is the full universe of people? And how can you really sort of cross-reference? And therefore, we couldn't find the guy. Well, it was no problem for Dan Bongino. And also, we just got this testimony like 2 months ago from the subcommittee or to the subcommittee saying there was absolutely no corruption of the data as that man testified under oath. So what is going on here?
It's a great question. It'll be challenging for me to give you a serious answer with the My Little Pony theme song running through my head constantly since you played that commercial.
My Little Pony.
Yeah, it's a great ad. It's a great ad.
So far, I have put Kamala Harris's bust and the My Little Pony theme song in your head, and this is a problem for more than just you, Stu. I'm sure many of our listeners feel the same.
I think that's true. It's a fascinating story because the length of time it took for us to get to anything, right? There was so many bits and pieces of information that kept popping up about the pipe bomber, and we just never really got to anything. And it seems shocking because you'd think, with their desire to blame someone who supposedly liked Donald Trump for really anything, you think that would have been a target if that was real. Certainly doesn't seem like the information we have about this particular individual aligns with someone who would support Donald Trump, which is something I guess he said in an interview at some point, or at least he said that he thought the election was stolen, allegedly. We'll see if that proves to be true. But they presented...
But then his grandmother came out and said he is not a Trump supporter. He's not political at all.
Yeah. So, who knows? Could just be a crazy person, could be a conspiracy theorist, could be something else.
Well, it's like Thomas Crooks. Thomas Crooks was hard left. He was hard right before he went hard left. He was Googling where Joe Biden was in the days leading up to the Trump assassination attempt. Then obviously he settled in on Trump. Like, it is very possible that these disturbed, disaffected, tricked out young men are not really political, that they have just violence on their mind. It is also possible they get used by somebody who corrupts their feeble minds. That's something a lot of people have been asking, especially about Thomas Crooks. I don't know about this guy. But anyway, it is possible that this wasn't political, even though the targeted entities were the RNC and the DNC. Yeah,
no, very true. And I think when you look at how all of this played out, you have a guy doing, multiple failed investigations and being aligned with a bunch of big embarrassments, but politically targeted ones, right? Things that would end up, generally speaking, favoring the Democrats and the Biden administration at the time. And, it's fascinating how these people who do these things that wind up being complete disasters always seem to fail up. He walks out of all of this and he's got a gig at KPMG, right? That. It's a very strange development. You'd think this is a person who'd be like, hey, is there, Subway, do you have a gig available? It seems like that's the profile we've seen from someone like that. And honestly, there's been so many theories on this and so much speculation and a lot of it ending up in conspiracies and all of that. And it's kind of understandable because of all the really strange things that have happened. When government officials are telling us the data was corrupted, a new administration gets in and they are almost instantly able to get a hold of this data and explain to us.
The data's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's been fine the whole time. I mean, when you hear the data is corrupted, it's like, okay, well, we just got to give up. There's nothing we can do here. He's wearing a mask. He's fully clothed. He's got his face is covered. There's no way we're going to figure this out without cell phone data. And then, at the end of the day, we just have it, right? There were cameras in the area that were pointed towards the places that could have. That's
another thing.
Yeah.
So that's another thing Miranda's pointing out, that all images and videos released by the FBI were low res and choppy.
Yeah.
This is before. She points out Mike Benz, a former State Department official during Trump's first term, and an executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, also claims a blur bar or pixelation effect has been laid over the suspect's eyes in the footage that shows him looking directly at the camera while sitting on a bench outside of the DNC building. Judging by the video, it might also be goggles, but either way, nobody recognized the suspect, perhaps by design. But now this FBI takes over, and before we know it, they've got, better pictures of him, higher res. And she also points out that by the end of February 2021, the Bureau had begun actively diverting resources away from the pipe bomb investigation. They did have other priorities under Joe Biden. They were tracking grannies at abortion clinics. They were tracking parents at COVID meetings who literally just went over their allotted time. Not making that up. The Merrick Garland testified before Congress on what led them to consider labeling parents domestic terrorists, pursuant to that letter that went to Joe Biden. And one of the items was parents going over their time. at the microphone at school board meetings. That's the insanity that the DOJ and the FBI were looking into instead of trying to find this guy who, by the way, Kash Patel and the FBI said had other bomb parts still sitting in his room, presumably purchased after the J6 date. So God knows what he was planning. It's like perhaps we should have been focused on him instead of the parent who went over her allotted time.
Yeah, and that is, and to add on to that unseemly pile of priorities, they were also taking the cell phone information of sitting U.S. senators and looking at what they were doing. And also running a multi-year campaign to fool the American people into believing their president had some cognitive abilities that he clearly did not have. This is it's his. I really think over time this will become a situation where we really understand historically how significant a lot of this stuff was. I mean, we're talking about the American people without a president basically for multiple years, at least making the decisions on a day-to-day basis. Really big things like this. You mentioned the pro-life centers. Some of those cases are fascinating. I mean, these situations where local police didn't see it as enough of a priority. Local police were like, we saw the details of this investigation. We're not going to charge this individual. And then mysteriously, weeks later, the federal government gets involved in a minor case with no charges in a locality where no one was injured. There's a little bit of a scuffle, a little bit of an argument, but that's really it. And then the feds start coming in and charging individuals for crimes of like blocking abortion clinics. And how do they even know about a case like that, let alone want to prosecute it?
Ever read the label on a typical bag of chips? It's often a science experiment of seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, and mystery ingredients. Masa is part of the growing movement to bring back real food. Masa chips contain just 3 ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Not only do these chips avoid the bad stuff, they also taste delicious too. Snacking on Masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With Masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic with no crash and no bloat. And if you love Masa, then you will love Vandy Crisps. Vandy, which is Masa's sister company, makes the most delicious 3-ingredient potato chips too. Ready to give Masa or Vandy a try? Use code MK for 25% off your first order at masachips.com or vandycrisps.com, or simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Don't feel like ordering online? Masa and Vandy are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick a couple of bags up before they're all gone.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.